Okay, guys, welcome to the next podcast. I think this is the 5th podcast for Woodford SSC. It's been obviously a while since I've done one. The reason why we opened up the gym, been quite busy, and just everything's been pretty full on. Thank you for your patience. I've had a lot of emails for guys writing in wanting me to do a podcast. Obviously, they're very busy. So obviously today I'll go through a few things, what's been happening, keep you guys up to date with everything that's going on at the Performance Centre. First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming down to the opening, which was probably about 4 weeks ago. It was a massive night for my company, a massive night for myself personally and for my staff. Just quite overwhelming for the amount of people that came down and was privy to my speech, which went fairly long, but it just wanted to get everything that I've felt for the last, I started 7-8 years ago, and to this point in time, I just really want to thank everyone for coming down. It meant a lot to me. It was very overwhelming, and everything that's gone on in my career, and obviously my company as well, which we've obviously got to this point. It just means a lot for everyone coming down, so thank you very much. A few other things that's going on at the Performance Centre. We actually had a high-profile ex-strength conditioning coach come down. She worked in the AFL. I'm not going to say her name, but she was down at the Performance Centre. She loved it. She's actually going to do her consultancy work out of Woodford SSC. So in the coming months, hopefully coming years, you'll see her down there with actually some AFL guys, some NRL guys. She's a specialist in knee rehabs. So that's probably one thing for all our Woodford SSC athletes to be excited about. We're going to have some elite guys down at the centre. And that's what I created it for. I kind of created it for kind of like in the States, you've got all these performance centres, and in the off-season, all these NFL players, they can go to these performance centres and train. In Australia, we don't get that. We can't have the AFL boys, they can't go to a performance centre. They're not allowed to. They've got to stay in-house. And even if they do, some of these guys, they get a program and they go to these big gyms. I wanted to create a performance centre where you can get the elite guys going to them. You get the sub-elite guys. You can get the amateur guys. And that's one thing that I wanted was I wanted anyone to be able to go to this high-performance facility with high-performance staff. And that's what I created it for. And obviously, it's kind of coming to fruition, everything I thought of it. Today's podcast, I actually wrote on the Facebook page, I said, write in your questions and I'll answer them the best of my ability. Today's question, I'll just pull it up here. Just bear with me 2 secs. It is... Okay. Okay, so here it is here. It was sent in by Shona McKean. The value of strength training with sports-specific movement versus standard versions of squats, leg presses. This is quite a big topic in terms of sports specificity and what I believe in, and how to train an athlete, and what's the best way to train an athlete. And the thing which you guys got to understand is you can have one athlete, 10 different coaches, and those 10 different coaches have all different methodologies. I'm talking about do they squat, do they deadlift, do they do bilateral work, do they only do unilateral work, do they do Olympic lifting, do they do some form of ballistic movement, explosive movement. Those 10 different methodologies, they can all program differently, but all end up to the same goal, which is performance, which is whatever the athlete needs. So you've just got to understand sports science and applied strength and conditioning is about how you interpret those fundamental sports science principles and how you apply them. That's all it is. It's about how you, as a coach, apply those theories into a practical application. That's the great thing what we do. Remember, what we do is half art, half science. You can never ever take the art away. And the thing about uni is they don't teach you the art of being a strength coach. They don't teach you the art of being a coach. And you know how you get it? It's by going and practically applying what you learn. It's about actually going out there and getting your hands dirty and coaching. And that's the biggest thing is kids in Australia, they do this degree and they've got all this theory, yet they can't apply it. To me, it's useless. I get all these kids, these kids who go for internships, and they're on their resume, they've got no coaching experience yet. they've gone in for evidence-based practice. They've published literature articles. They've published articles on sports science. To me, that's useless. I don't care about that. That's great knowledge, but in terms of coaching ability, you're no good. So for me, one thing I look at with these guys who send me resumes through is the ability to coach, the ability to communicate, the ability to get the most out of the athlete. And that's one thing that for all those exercise science kids out there, and I know I've got a lot because a lot of kids, I get that many kids messaging me saying, I'm in third year, second year, what's my next step? I want to open up a performance center. How can I go best about it? I'm always willing to help you guys out. Is go get your hands dirty, go coach. And that could be even at a local gym. It doesn't have to be in a performance center. I was just lucky, man. I built from nothing. 15, 16 months ago with my ex-girlfriend, if you're listening out there, I'm sure she's going to watch this, hopefully, Jessica Pickett, who started this whole thing with me. We literally started from the bottom. We had nothing. I could even barely pay the $150 rent. And I started from nothing and built my way up. So just start at the lowest level. Start with general population clients. What do they want? They want fat loss. They want muscle gain. They want to jack their metabolism up. And train them like an athlete. Coach them like an athlete. Stop thinking you're a personal trainer and let the science guide you. You're a strength scientist. Personal training is outdated. It's done, in my opinion. What you've got to start looking for is the science behind exercise, the science behind human performance. My hand actions. So that's one thing that you guys got to remember. Now, in going back to the question, I go on tangents. Going back to the question, always remember what you're training for. If anyone's out there, you guys know what SAID means. SAID, specific adaptations to impose demands. The body adapts specifically to the stress implied. Meaning, if you train in a certain way, it's going to adapt in that certain way. And it's very specific to the muscle group, motor pattern, joint angle, contraction type, contraction velocity, metabolic pathway. Everything is specific to the way you train. Example, if you want to get better at a squat, squat. If you want to get better at deadlifting, deadlift. If you want to get better at your sport, play your goddamn sport. The amount of guys that I hear and they go, oh, this movement's more sport specific. Yes, there's going to be movements that are more sport specific in your particular sport. Yes. If you want to improve your vertical jump, the best way to improve your vertical jump is jumping. Doing some sort of box jump, some sort of dynamic effort squat jump. Squatting will improve your vertical, believe it or not. So everything's specific. And in terms of the question that I got to ask, I could go on for another 25 minutes about this subject, but the whole thing which you got to remember is it goes back to what your goals are. Always remember as well is when you get a novice in any training stimulus, regardless of your sets, your reps, your rest periods, your loads, your frequency, regardless of that, you're going to get good adaptation. And this is the whole thing I don't understand about people who say they squat with bands and chains when you've got a novice who've never trained before. Of course you're going to get stronger. Your training age is 0. If you understand physiology, and this is for anyone out there, if you're a novice, and when I say a novice, someone who's never lifted before, your window adaptation is huge. So your training benefit is massive. You're going to adapt very, very, very quickly. So obviously this is your genetic ceiling here, and this is where you're starting. So I'm trying to get in the screen here, all right? As you keep training your genetic ceiling, it's going to come close to your genetic ceiling. It should have gone the other way. It's going to get close to your genetic ceiling. And that means you need higher training interventions and more, obviously, more specific training interventions. So early on, adaptation will be quick and you don't have to place a specific stimulus on your body in terms of the sport to get better at your sport. The issue is, which most people is, which the question was sport-specific movement. Hold on, I'll go back to it because I've lost the question already. The value of strength training with sport-specific movements versus standard versions of squats. So, I mean, guys go to the gym and what they might do. Example, let's give an example out. You're a baseball player. One of my strength coaches, my assistant, Nick Rossell, who, when I first met the kid, really had no idea about training in terms of performance training. And he's quite a good baseball player. And what I've seen over the journey since I kind of taught him this, the kid cleans, he squats heavy, he deadlifts heavy. He's an athlete. He's a strength power athlete. A baseball is a strength power athlete. And the perfect example is you get a baseball player in and they get a heavy club, and what they'll do is they'll swing with a heavy club. And I get the question all the time, is it right to load the skill? No. Now, just bear in mind, this is my methodology. This is what I believe in. Okay, I don't think loading the skill is the best idea. Now, let me just give you a reason for it. One, it's going to change your biomechanics. Two, it's going to change your motor patterning. It's going to create what we call negative motor patterns. Now, negative motor patterns is inefficient motor patterns. Remember, your CNS drives and controls muscle contraction in the most efficient way. Now, you're coming to Woodford SSC to develop the physiological qualities, your physical qualities involved in the sport. One, to improve your ability to perform the skill. Two, reach your physical threshold, so reach your physical point. Obviously, get better physically. Okay, you don't come to me for the skill-based training. We are separate. There's a physical component and there's a technical, tactical component. Now, you integrate the two, you make a total athlete. Now, is sport-specific training important? Yes, we need to mimic the physiological demand. Yes, we need to do high-strength, high-power work, depending on the sport. But no, you don't load the skill in the gym. There's no benefit to it. What you will probably see is you'll see regression. Because, example, go back to the baseballer. If you load a heavy baseball club and you're swinging with that club, all I can see out of it is you're going to create negative motor patterns and you're actually going to get slower. If you look at the force velocity curve, remember, the higher the force, the lower the velocity. If you increase external load, force will be higher, but movement speed will be slowed down. Remember, sport is played in a high velocity movement. Movements aren't slow, they're quick. So why you'd want to load the skill is beyond me. Now, there are some points where it might be okay to load the skill. Example, you might get a TheraBand, a light TheraBand, and you might do some throwing stuff, abduction, internal rotation stuff. You know, you might do some of that throwing stuff. I remember when I was in the States, I went to a game of baseball, my first and last game. I am never going to a game of baseball again. God, it was boring. And it was, I think it was the Colorado Rockies versus the Washington Wizards. And I went there and I saw their strength coach, and I always love looking at how different sports physiologically activate their athletes. And I'm intrigued by different sports and what is the optimal warm-up for a specific sport. And I saw how they were warming up their athletes, and what they got their players to do was, it was like TheraBand or elastic band, and they were just doing heaps of this stuff. Internal rotation, they were doing heaps of abduction, external rotation, just warming up that glenohumeral joint, because a big thing about baseball is, a lot of athletes have lax shoulders, especially for baseball or throwing athletes. I used to work with the water polo team at the VIS. A lot of them had lax shoulders because of that movement here, and they're not structurally stable through their posterior shoulder girdle. So it's really important we tighten up their rotator cuff, their shoulder capsule. So in that instance, is it okay to do some sort of sport-specific movement? Yes, because you're not loading it to a certain point. You're not making it heavy enough to change their biomechanics, and that's a really important factor. Don't load them heavy enough to change their biomechanics. Now, you might say, actually, here's a good example. They say on any sled sprinting, don't load it to, I think, 20 to 30% over their body weight. Why? Because it changes their sprinting mechanics. Remember, the reason why they come to performance coaches is to make, A, increase explosive force generating capacity athlete, but number two, to make the athlete more efficient at their sport. Now, if you load it too heavy, you change their running mechanics. If you change the running mechanics in a field-based sport, you're going to make them less efficient at their running mechanics. You're going to make them slower. It's a domino effect. Okay, so let's go back to Woodford SSC methods. Let's go back to why I believe Woodford SSC, my company, works so well. We train basic fundamental motor patterns. Basic fundamental, and when I say by that, we coach basic squat, deadlift, clean, snatch, jerk. Okay, the basic fundamental movements that challenge the nervous system and increase explosive force generating capacity. And we overload it. Remember training, and this is something that I get all the time, is I get it probably about, at the moment, probably 10 to 15, 20 emails a week to my Christian account asking me questions about, I got this program from online. What do you think of it? I got this highly advanced program. What do you think of it? Guys, strength and conditioning, even general population training for fat loss, weight gain, it's basic. Our job isn't that hard. It's about applying a stress, allowing rest, nutrition, recovery, and the body adapts and increasing capacities. For the life of me, you get all these people, and I see it all the time, and they have these highly advanced strength and conditioning programs. When I say highly advanced, they do contrast loading, they do trisets, they do bands and chains, they do cluster sets, they do all these advanced movements and all these advanced systems when they can't even do the basics right. The basics win out for me. And a lot of people challenge my methods because they go, oh, it's too simplistic. Woodford SSC is too simplistic. Simplistic works. Example, 5-3-1. Wendler's 5-3-1. That works. It's just applying basic overload. That's all it is. That's all it is. Applying basic overload, allowing rest and recovery, and your body adapts, and it gets stronger. And that's the whole thing which I never understood. When I came back to Australia, and what I saw in America, and also in Australia as well, don't get me wrong, was just basic neuromuscular overload. Apply stress, allow rest and recovery. Stimulus, fatigue, recovery, adaptation. And that's how the body goes through. Now, for most of our guys, for most athletes in general, they might not be strong enough for a highly advanced stimulus. They don't need it. A guy like one of my boys, a powerlifting, JP, who's actually working for us at the moment, he's an assistant strength coach, great kid. For a guy like him, you're probably going to have a highly advanced stimulus because he's very strong. He's very, what I like to call neurally advanced. He's got high levels of neural recruitment. His nervous system's very efficient. He needs a highly trained stimulus. Now, for a kid coming in, a footballer coming in, he's lifted for 4 years, in and out of a high-performance program. You've got to remember, training is going to be like this. It's going to be wave-like, up and down, up and down. It's going to be pretty much fitness fatigue, positive, negative adaptation, fitness fatigue. So you're going to have his strength level goes down sometime, his strength level comes up. And that's the whole thing is, which we do is, in terms of what we call sport-specific training, yes, there's going to be training that's more specific than other times, but you've got to remember it all comes down to a periodization model. Early on in the off-season, pre-season, it's going to be more general focused training. It's not going to be very specific. High volume, low intensity. As we get closer to the season, training is going to get more specific in terms of the physiological demand. Try and get that one out. High intensity, low volume. The focus is more on strength, power, speed development than it is work capacity development, stuff like that. You got to remember, as it gets close to season, what's going to take over is the technical, tactical side of it. So the more specific training, then the physical preparation, then the strength, power, speed, work capacity. I've always believed integration is really important. You develop the strength, power, speed, agility, work capacity in the gym, and then you integrate it with the skill to make it sport specific. So you develop that strength, power, speed in the gym. Then you integrate it with the skill, and then you learn how to move with that new strength, power, speed, and it makes that specificity. Because in terms of the skill, you've got that specific muscle group, motor pattern, metabolic pathway. You integrate it together, you've got a total athlete. So pretty much the only true way of sport-specific conditioning is the skill itself, guys. There's nothing I can do in the gym that's sport specific, 100%. Remember, we're always looking for transfer. You're never going to get 100% transfer. The only way you get transfer is the skill itself. For kids out there, remember, a squat isn't going to yes, it's going to give you the physical tools to make you a better football player in terms of your strength, your power, your speed. Is it going to give you a better kick? Is it going to make you better skill? No, not 100%. Never forget that. Always training's the most. Physical prep is secondary, the skill is first. Always remember that. Now, if you can understand that, and you can understand how important the skill is in terms of specificity, then you understand what true specificity is. For the guys out there who'll say, oh, there's more, but I can load this move, and I've put a weighted vest on, I've weighted a bat and I've swung a bat, or I've had a golf club, I've weighted a golf club and I swung that, and I've got better at this. Always remember your training age. Remember, maybe your body's adapted to that swing, and you're so efficient through that pattern there now because you've taught your body that pattern. That's why you perform. Performance has so many variables. There's not one factor that's greater than the other. There's 1,000 variables. And that's why myself, I get so personally upset when people just turn around and they go, oh, they ran out of legs in the fourth quarter, and it's the fitness coach's fault. Well, no. There's 1,000 other factors to performance than just fitness. There could be psychological. It could be technical, tactical. There's 1,000 factors, so that's why it annoys me. I'm going to wrap this up, but I'm just going to leave on this. Always remember, there's 1,000 different ways to skin a cat, okay? And one thing I do cop a lot of flack is on my methods. Just remember this. I get buy-in from, we as a company, Woodford SC, we get buy-in from athletes. That's what works. They believe in what we sell, what we preach. Basic, compound, multi-joint, multi-planet, ground-based movements, training kinetic chain, applying overload. Integration with the skill, we make a total athlete. And that's what Woodford SSC model is all about, is making the total athlete. It's not about just going in for a lift. It's about strength, power, speed, agility, work capacity, injury prevention, building body armor. And that's why Woodford SSC, we make the total model. Thanks, guys, for listening to my podcast. Just a few things I want to bring up with everyone is, for the teams out there, we're getting heaps of teams messaging us. Please, it's the 25th at the moment. You've got to hurry up. Contact us as soon as possible so we can book you in for a time, because we are running out of spots. For any kid who comes, I'm quite overwhelmed. When I'm out, I actually get heaps of kids come up to me. Just lately, I've had heaps of kids come up to me and they say to me, I want to be like, you want to create a performance center. You know, I really do appreciate it. It's quite overwhelming. If I don't seem like I'm very happy to talk to, I am. It's just, it's quite overwhelming for people to still come up to me and say, you know, I do exercise science, you know, I follow your company. You know, I love hearing that. Appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much. Please keep sending me your emails. I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. I'm quite busy at the moment. But thank you for coming up to me. It does mean a lot to me. Also, anyone out there who does want an internship, keep sending me through internships resumes. I'm always happy to have a look at them. We're kind of building a really strong team at the moment moving forward. There's a few other things that I'll keep you up to date with. But other than that's the main thing. If you do have any questions, email me, christian@woodfordssc.com. Other than that, guys, thanks very much for your time. And I hope to see you for the next podcast. I'll announce another question very soon. I appreciate all your support and hope to see you soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.